Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into a brand new episode of the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. My name is Jackson Durham, and guys, the draft is just over 2 months away, and it is time for our very first 7 round mock draft on the channel. Strap in, guys, buckle those seatbelts because this one's going to be a bit of a long one, but a very, very fun one as we break down every pick the Chiefs have in the 2026 NFL Draft. But before we get into today's show, I've got to remind you guys, we've got mock drafts. We've got combine coverage. Chat Sports is going to have boots on the ground at the 2026 Scouting Combine as we have for the last few years. And we will have interviews from Brett Veach, interviews from Andy Reid potentially as well. Coverage of every single pick they make in April. You need it. We've got it around the draft. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because, as I always say, we are your one-stop shop for everything Kansas City Chiefs. Let's get into their picks in the 2026 NFL Draft. We've got 6 as of right now. Today's going to be a no-trade mock, but I do think it is realistic that the Chiefs trade down on one of these picks to acquire a little bit more draft capital in 2026, maybe in the mid-rounds. But as of right now, 9th overall in first round, 40th overall in the second round, 74th overall in the third round. And then moving into the day 3 draft picks, we've got the 109th overall in the 4th round, the 146th overall in the 5th round, and then a potential compensatory, very likely that it'll be the 176th overall in the 5th round. That compensatory pick coming our way because of Justin Reid's departure last season. So without further ado, let's get into our first overall pick, our 9th overall selection in the draft. First round, Jordyn Tyson, the elite receiving option that Patrick Mahomes has been missing for a while, in my opinion. What we were hoping Rashee Rice would step into last season, that is what Jordyn Tyson is. Let's get a look at who was also on the board, who I passed up on to take Jordyn Tyson here. Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State. That was a pretty tempting option there, Mansour Delane. I did think about that one. That was a waft back and forth. Are we going to trade Trent McDuffie? In this universe, we're holding on to him. So that Mansour Delane pick didn't make as much sense. Cassius Howell was a little tempting out of Texas A&M. Francis Maui-Noah, a lot of people want to add depth to this offensive line. I don't think it's worth doing that early. Peter Woods was maybe the most tempting option on the board, though. Adding a defensive tackle like that as a long-term successor to Chris Jones would have also been a great pick. But instead, I settle on Jordyn Tyson. Because when I look at what caused this Chiefs offense to stall out so many times last season, it was the lack of a number one go-to guy that I feel like Patrick could trust. At times, that was because Rashee wasn't in the offense. At times, that was because Xavier Worthy wasn't in the offense either. We were working with a bunch of backup guys. But even when those two guys were back, and Travis Kelce was playing as well, I feel like this offense still did not have that elite number one guy. And Jordyn Tyson has been that for Arizona State his entire college career, especially in 2025. In just 9 games, this guy had 711 yards, 8 touchdowns. He only dropped 1 pass on 97 targets. And like I said, he is far from a one-year wonder. Injuries are a concern with him for sure. Cost him a good deal of time in 2023. Cost him time in 2025 as well, and cost him the end of his season in 2024. He missed the playoffs, but every time this guy is on the football field, he is producing, and I think he would be an electric addition to this offense. Somebody that Patrick Mahomes could rely on, somebody that Patrick Mahomes could trust. But I know a lot of you guys want to see upgrades on the defense as well. I think adding to the offense is a bit overkill. Well, we did it in round 2. Round 2, 40th overall, Gabe Jacas out of Illinois. Spelled with a J there, but pronounced Jacas. And this guy is fun. We'll get into him in a minute. Let's take a look at who else was on the board. Dylan Thieneman was there, the safety out of Oregon. I've actually sent him Kansas City's way in the past as well. Zion Young, the edge defender out of Mizzou. Emmanuel Pregnon, the offensive lineman out of Oregon. Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker out of Texas. And LT Overton, the defensive lineman out of Bama. Did go back and forth a little bit on Zion, LT, and Gabe Jacas. Which one of these edge defenders do I want to come away with? I knew I wanted one, but I settle in on Jacas. I think one of the Big Ten's most underappreciated pass rushers last year, actually led the entire conference in 2025 with 11 sacks, and he has 19 over the last 2 seasons. When I think about what are we missing on defense, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, a true game wrecker. 11 sacks, 41 pressures, and 28 stops in 2025 alone. This guy is a versatile presence in the front seven and somebody that can, I don't think from day one, I'm not saying Gabe Jacas steps into the Kansas City Chiefs depth chart day one and is taking over football games and is dominating with his presence, but I do think he has that kind of ceiling. And I do think that is something that this team has lacked. And when I look at the way he finished in 2025, that's the most promising sign. That's the most promising sign that this guy does truly have game wrecker potential. 21 of his 41 pressures in 2025, over 50%, come in just the final 4 games of the season. That is incredible. And again, what do the Chiefs lack? A true game wrecker. You look at this depth chart. George Karlaftis, we cannot rely on him to consistently take over games, even though we're paying him like somebody who does take over games. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Ashton Gelati, I do think he showed potential in his rookie season. I'm hoping he can take that step in year 2, but I don't know if we can rely on him and just rely on him alone. I think we do need a difference maker on edge, and I think we got one in Gabe Jacas, and I know we got one in Jordyn Tyson at receiver. So first 2 picks down, 40 picks through this draft. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are already taking huge steps if these were your first 2 picks. You've taken a big leap on offense, adding a receiver that Patrick Mahomes can trust, and you've set yourself up to take a big leap eventually on defense as well with a future pass rusher that can become a game wrecker and does have day one contribution ability as well. And speaking of things that we want to set ourselves up for, I know you guys want to set yourselves up for success on St. Patty's Day coming up around the corner. And if you want to be able to rep the kingdom and still not get pinched for not wearing your green, make sure you get your Kansas City drinking team tees. These things are awesome. I really like the Kelly green look, but I know some of you guys don't want to rep anything that even slightly represents the Eagles, so we do have it in black for you guys as well. I think the clover on the helmet looks awesome. Definitely something I will be wearing this St. Patrick's Day. I think you guys should pick up yours as well, and you can do so at chatsports.com/KC Green. Make sure you get your hands on one of these. They're limited edition, so they won't be around forever. But once again, that's chatsports.com/KC Green to get one of these, and let's get right back into the mock draft with our 3rd round draft pick at 74th overall. We're finally adding the running back, something in the past we've done in round 1 with Jeremiah Love. Wasn't available for me. He went off the board before we were able to select in round 1. So now we finally come back around for that need in round 3. Didn't make sense to do it in round 2, in my opinion. No one else I wanted to take at 9, but Emmett Johnson at 74 could be electric. Here's who else was on the board. Dalen Everett. Guys, this one sucked to pass on. Dalen Everett was a hard pass. He's great out of Georgia. He would have been an awesome selection as well, but I just can't ignore the need that we have at running back any longer. Skylar Bell, another great weapon at receiver. If we want to just have an embarrassment of riches there, we could have added him. Max Clare would have been a great option at tight end, potential successor to Travis Kelce. Carson Beck, I know a lot of people have talked about potentially adding a quarterback, so I did add him on that list. People thinking about depth options if Mahomes isn't available week 1. I wouldn't want to do that this early, but I did want to note that he was also available. And Jack Endries, the other tight end, other potential future option from Travis Kelce. But I think Emmett makes the most sense. He broke out big time for the Cornhuskers in 2025 with 251 carries for 1,451 yards and 12 touchdowns. This dude was fantastic, averaging almost 6 yards per clip, and the missed tackles forced with him is unbelievable. This dude forced 68 missed tackles in 2025 alone. That ranked top 10 in the country and helped contribute to him being recognized as the Big Ten's running back of the year in 2025. This would be a steal in the 3rd round, in my opinion. You're getting a guy who produced at an incredibly high level, does not have a ton of tread on the tires because he only had one season as the full-time starter at Nebraska. So you like that as well. Is a high-level receiving option, contributed almost 400 receiving yards, not included in that 1,400. That was only on the ground. So total contribution of nearly 2,000 total yards for Emmett Johnson at Nebraska last year. I'm not really sure why he's not higher on a lot of people's draft boards, but if he was there for us at 74, my goodness, that would be an excellent addition. Two new great receiving options for Patrick Mahomes, Jordyn Tyson, true receiver, and Emmett Johnson to help him out of the backfield. I like the sound of that, and I love the sound of Bud Clark, safety out of TCU, coming to Kansas City in the 4th round, 109th overall. We addressed the back end of our defense with somebody I think, like Emmett Johnson, is incredibly underappreciated, very much an under-the-radar draft prospect, and one of my favorite guys in this class personally. We'll get into him in just one second, but first, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more Chiefs mock drafts just like this one. If you've made it into round 4 of a Chiefs mock draft in February, my friend, you are a Chiefs real one. And if you are not already subscribed, you absolutely need to be. We are your one-stop shop for everything Kansas City Chiefs. And if you're locked in like you already are watching mock drafts in February, you need to be locked in with us because you are absolutely a real Chiefs fanatic. And that's what we do here. So let's get into who else was on the board when we decided to take Bud Clark. Genesis Smith, defensive back out of Arizona. Another defensive back, Malik Muhammad. You guys can kind of tell I was locked in on that position here. But I did consider adding more to the defensive line as well when the Dame Tucker, Skylar Gill-Howard, and Tim Keenan III. Still thinking about that potential future heir at defensive tackle, but ultimately something I think they'll address more in free agency. So that's where you get to Bud. And gosh, this guy is disruptive. Ball hawk is the word to use. 65% completion percentage allowed into his coverage, 256 yards on those 65% completion percentage, 4 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, 75.9 QB rating. He's around the football, man. 15 picks in his 6 seasons at TCU. And yes, I did say 6 seasons. It's a big part of why he's still available in round 4, to be completely honest with you. But this guy takes his chances. He wants to make plays on the football, and he'll do it at the cost of giving up a few big plays. It's something that I don't necessarily even know if you want to teach out of him. At the end of the day, you're going to live and die by Bud Clark to some degrees on the back end of your defense, but he is high end with the great stuff. The 15 interceptions, 4 of which came in this season. I'm telling you guys, if he was not 23 years old, the tape has him as a day 2 pick. This would be a steal, in my opinion. Maybe not your franchise safety on the back end. Maybe not a guy who starts for you forever because, again, he is a little bit older. I do think he's closer to his ceiling, but he is somebody who could be that day 1 replacement for Brian Cook. And you get that in the 4th round. That's huge. Cook's headed out the door in free agency this year. I do think cap decisions are going to have to get made, some tough ones at the end of the day. Cook's a good player, but I don't know that he's coming back to Kansas City. I think he's going to get some money elsewhere in free agency, which leaves you with a significant hole on the back end. Is that where you want to spend free agency money, or do you want to trust a guy like Bud Clark, who has a ton of experience, was a ball hawk in his time at TCU, always played well? Let him fill in, be your day 1 starter on the back end, and get that on a rookie deal for the next 4 years at least. Moving on to continue adding to the secondary with Hezekiah Masses. And this guy is interesting. He is an old friend of Noel Williams, spent some time at Cal together, and I think he would be a very high ceiling corner for the future for this Kansas City Chiefs team, in the 5th round. Let's look at who else was on the board. Jacoby Lane, receiver out of USC. Drew Aller went the very next pick afterwards. Somebody I have also seen mocked to Kansas City in the 5th round. People still think that we're going to add a quarterback. I'm going to continue to address it. I don't think that that's going to happen in this draft, but we'll just include these guys because other people just keep throwing that out in the late rounds. Reggie Virgil, receiver out of Texas Tech. Katron Allen, another guy out of Penn State. If you wanted to wait around a little bit on running back, I'm not a huge fan of doing that. Or if you want to let Kareem Hunt go, maybe he could be your future power back. Eli Raridan was another guy that was really tempting. That was where I was kind of going back and forth. Could that be our future tight end, Eli Raridan? I don't think so. I think Hezekiah made a little bit more sense, especially when you do consider Jalen Watson, who right now is actually Christian Fulton on that depth chart. I just realized that. May be headed out the door in free agency this offseason. If Jalen Watson, I think you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Again, it's tough to project exactly who of Jalen Watson or Brian Cook is going to get to stay. You can't really keep both of them. I think it's pretty hard to envision a situation in which the Chiefs can make that work cap-wise, unless one of those guys is willing to take a massively discounted deal, which just isn't a lot of incentive for them to take less money than they're worth at the end of the day. You could bring in another corner for the future in Hezekiah, somebody who has experience with Noel Williams, who was one of the guys who showed a ton of flashes for you this season. I think that is an idea I like a lot in the 5th round. And another one that I like a lot, and something that feels very Kansas City to me, is adding more depth to the offensive line at 176th with Jordyn Roberts out of Alabama. This guy is a raw athlete in a lot of ways. Just super, super physically gifted. Had some injury issues in his final couple seasons at Alabama that prevented him from really being able to take off. But you can see every year he continues to get better at right guard for this team. And last year, when injuries came up for this offensive line, you saw the production take a massive step back. And depth is a concern. We currently do not have somebody who can be the true backup at right guard, or unless you're flipping CJ Hansen, an undrafted free agent, back and forth from being backup at left guard and right guard. I do not think that any team in the NFL would ever say you could have enough depth at offensive line, especially enough talented depth at offensive line, enough guys you trust to be able to step in. Mike Caliendo didn't do a good enough job filling in for Trey Smith when he had to do it. I want guys we can count on behind our starting offensive linemen. We invest a lot into those guys, but that doesn't mean injuries still can't come up for you and that you don't need to be prepared when they do. Jordyn Roberts helps you be prepared. Maybe not day 1, but day 2, day 3, Jordyn Roberts, he is a plus backup, absolutely, and that's great value in the 5th round. So let's recap our draft because that is the final pick that Kansas City has as of right now. 9th overall, we went Jordyn Tyson, added an elite number 1 receiving option for Patrick Mahomes for the future. That is our future franchise receiver right there. Gabe Jacas at 40th. I think he's going to be a long-term steal. If you got him at 40th, I think people would look back at this draft in 5 years and go, man, that was a pick that helped set the Kansas City Chiefs up to win Super Bowls over the next couple of years. That's what helped get the dynasty back on track. These 3 picks right here, adding Emmett Johnson to help get the running game back on track, something that was such an issue, adding Gabe Jacas to help get the pass rush back on track. I think 2 of your biggest issues are fixed right there, plus Jordyn Tyson to help elevate Patrick Mahomes even further. My gosh, that offense and that defense are right back on track. And then we add further to the secondary in the 4th round and the 5th round early with Bud Clark and Hezekiah Masses. I think Bud Clark is a day 1 contributor. I think Hezekiah is a guy for the future. And then with the final pick in the 5th round, 176th overall, we add some depth to the offensive line with Jordyn Roberts. So grade my Chiefs mock draft. Get your red pens out. You guys get to be the teacher today. Give me an A, give me a B, give me a C, give me a D, or give me an F. Let me know in the comments, what do you think my mock draft deserves? And I will see you guys in the next one. As always, let's go Kansas City Chiefs.